I want to have uncomfortable conversations. I want the room to be divided. I want people to be screaming and mad at each other. Then I want them to understand each other. I want to see things from a different point of view. This is Unpopular Opinion. Upstanding citizens, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and to also follow us on our other social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. It's always a pleasure to be with you. So today's guest, I like to remind you guys that you've got the freedom to reach out to us if you want to come through. There's something you need to share with the community. We are a learning space. We are a space where Africans can get to know themselves better. And if there are voices that need to be heard or want to be heard, we are that space. So please do DM us on unpopular_za on Twitter. Today's guest, I'm sure many of you have seen him on the Twitter streets speaking about racism, speaking about the Apartheid Museum. His tweets are always in capital letters, so he's always shouting at us. So today we decided to invite him onto this couch so that he can unpack and enlighten us and show us this thing that he's been wanting us to see. Ndate Mike Stainbank. Oh, no. Thank you so much for joining us. And you have our attention. You have our attention.
It's kind of you to have invited me, Ntsiki. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking your time. So let's start from the beginning, because with human beings, they always need to know who the person is before they want to hear the surrounding or what, they need to trust you. So Can you give us a bit of your history, especially in terms of the apartheid struggle?
Oh, okay. Well, the perception in the mind of most people, and that perception was created primarily by the media. And it starts on the 18th of November, 2001, when the Jewish journalist by the name of Jeremy Gordon.
I think you're going a bit ahead right now, because we're in 2000. We want the person.
Okay.
Where
I
did
was
you grow
born.
up?
I was born in I was born in Durban. I grew up not all my life. I've been in Johannesburg for about 35 years now. So, but Durban is home. And I come from a single parent home.
Yes,
I have two brothers and a sister who has passed on. And my mother's also passed on. My father's also passed on. And we come from a typical Black home. Nothing particularly unusual about it. I was the eldest son in the family. And I left school and I helped my mother raise my brothers and sisters.
And I know apartheid is such an emotional and violent memory. And I hate that I always have to trigger my guests here, but the only way we can get through stuff is if we go through the pain and unpack it and whatever. So give me more on how you've been impacted.
It's very hard to kind of like say this, and this. But every time when I try to introspect on that, I often begin with the kind of how hard it was for my mother. My father. I was 9. I was 9. When my father went overseas. And then my mother, 4 children.
But Mike, if this is difficult for you, I don't want to push you.
And she was left to raise the 4 of us. And that, I think, must have had something. But then, as I say, I was born in Durban. Fortunately for me, I'm not quite sure how it happened, but I read a lot, and I gravitated toward the Black consciousness movement before. I don't have a consciousness that connects with the African National Congress at all. And I think that it's because we used to go down to, and I don't know why I forget the name of the Alan Taylor, that's called Alan Taylor residence. And during my time, the Black consciousness movement was the movement at that particular time. And so I found myself moving toward that. And that was my political consciousness, if you like. I never got to meet Biko, but I certainly met Sats Cooper, Srini Moodley, and all of the other guys associated with the Black consciousness movement in Durban at that time. And that is why, when it comes to the question that you asked earlier on about the idea of the Apartheid Museum, like I said earlier on, the Apartheid Museum, the idea to educate on this issue begins in the year after the 76 student uprising, and in the year that Biko was killed, murdered. So 1977 is this idea to educate. And in 1977, the words "the Apartheid Museum" are nowhere. They're nowhere in my head. All I'm saying to myself is that there must be a way in which we can educate about how this 500 years has impacted on our minds. So it's in the research and development of how to educate. It's after many years of research and development, I find myself with documents on A4 pages, and I'm putting together my thoughts, and I've got them going, and I see this thing. It's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer to me in terms of how we should do it, right? And so by 1994, the documentation is kind of complete, but it's on paper. It's just on paper. And a lot of people don't believe this, but the first, and I hope you'll bring me back on track, Ntsiki, because I tend to veer off. So just correct me and slap me back into place. So in 1994, just on A4 paper, the concept of the Apartheid Museum is given to Ace Magashule of the African National Congress, as he's sitting at that time with Terra Lekota as the minister, I think in the, what they call that, in the Free State as the minister of, not minister, MEC of tourism, I think.
Okay.
Right. So that's 1994. My trademark is registered in 1990. Okay? So that's 1994. Comes to my home. I'm invited to Bloemfontein. I do this whole presentation. And they express a keen interest in the Apartheid Museum. Am I on track, Ntsiki?
You're on track. Now we're hearing the story.
Okay. So that thing goes wrong when, squabbles within the African National Congress. Monsieur Lekote is taken out. Ntsiki Kasuburi is brought in. African National Congress nonsense in Nigeria, as we know it. It's just happening all the time. So that falls apart. But 1998, I then do my 48, I should have brought that with me, my 48-page full-color prospectus, in which I speak of the Apartheid Museum in words and pictures. And that then is, and when I think about it, it is imminently possible that my association with Black consciousness, it's imminently possible that whole concept of Steve Biko, that how does that expression, how does he say that? The most important
weapon for the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed.
And I might well have been influenced by that. And but then there's other people that have said that differently. Eskian Pashela also says that. And so when my prospectus is published in 1998, I say that specifically, that the primary objective facing the Apartheid Museum is to address the psychological healing that we need to get through. But now, if you're satisfied with that part of the introduction, I would want to go on and go back to the thing I was saying about Jeremy Gordon. Jeremy Gordon comes out on the 18th of November, 2001, and he says that the Apartheid Museum was conceived by Eben Solly-Kroc after a visit to the Holocaust Museum, Holocaust Memorial in Washington. It's a blatant lie. It's a blatant lie. Gold Reef City Casino, with Rule Khoza as chairman, are sitting with my 48-page full-color prospectus around about 1998. They've got it. They've got it in their hands. And they study it and decide that they're going to steal it. After they had told the gambling board that and when I say told the gambling board, I mean they were contractually obligated to build Freedom Park. That is the contractual obligation of Gold Reef City Casino. The gambling board said, you have the temporary license. We're giving you 3 years to complete Freedom Park.
Okay.
Now, Freedom Park, in that conception that they gave to the gambling board, is nothing more than a tribal village in the construct of Verwoerd. These are tribes. This is not one African nation, if you understand what I'm saying. So Verwoerd's concept is the concept that they had in mind for Freedom Park. If you go through their written presentation and you go through the public hearings in November of 1997, there is no mention whatsoever of the Apartheid Museum. So what they then do once they have my prospectus in their hands, they're looking at a full concept, right? And they say to themselves, why not steal this? And that's when they decide that they're going to steal it. So they bring in mainstream media like Jeremy Gordon. The week after that, Charlotte Bauer runs a story that is absolutely contradictory to the facts. And she says that Gold Reef City Casino presented Freedom Park presented the Apartheid Museum in order to convince the gambling board about giving their license. That is another blatant lie. And then all of mainstream media caught onto that story, including overseas media. They brought them in from overseas. And so that lie up to today is a lie that the media has never apologized for. That is the sum total of that lie. And it perpetuates throughout, primarily through mainstream media and the African National Congress. That's, in a nutshell, that is the truth about the Apartheid Museum.
Okay, wait. So what do you mean that is the truth about? Are you saying that your intellectual property was stolen?
And when you I like that, Ntsiki, I like that question. When you say intellectual property, I want to be specific and say the registered trademark, the Apartheid Museum, was stolen. Now, why was it stolen? It was stolen because of its magnetic pulling power that the people at Gold Reef City Casino, led by Chairman Rule Khoza, realized was a benefit to them. So they stole it. But what they did not steal, Ntsiki, is the concept, is the ideas that were contained in there. Now, if you knew the actual intent of the Apartheid Museum, Solly Croc would never ever have been able to interpret that. And it's not in the interest of the African National Congress for Black people to overcome this mental slavery that we have inherited over these 500 years of violence and assault against us. I have a brother, Rituli, who speaks about the whip is always in our minds.
Yeah.
Now, to be able to steal that, and it's there are so many well-meaning people that often say that, even on Twitter, they stole Bra Mike's idea. No. The idea they didn't steal. They stole the registered trademark. And in order to do that, they captured the South African judiciary. It's the judiciary.
What?
Oh, of course, it's totally. The South African judiciary, I said it in an earlier interview, is corrupt to the core. And it's corrupt to the core. Primarily, if you go back and you look at the beginning of 1994, you find 1994 begins with the government of national unity. True? Remember that? It's a government of national unity. So you have your oppressor sitting with your so-called liberator and making decisions. And I just wrote this last night, actually. In that government of national unity, that is when the decision on cadre deployment was made. That was made way back then, all right? So what you have today, if you go through any government organization, you have your oppressors or sitting together with people who are deemed to be Black. That's my thesis.
Yeah.
That and I've always argued, it's not, when you talk about Black economic empowerment, you're talking specific, you should have been talking not to pigmentation, but rather.
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the idea of Rule Khoza in Black economic transformation, it's nonsensical. Rule Khoza is like your number one quintessential house Negro. That's what he is.
Who's this guy? Who's Rule Khoza?
Oh, you don't know Rule Khoza? Rule Khoza is the king he's the king for white people. He's their everything. That's what he is. And he was the chairman specifically brought in by Abraham and Solomon Kroc. But do you know the history of Abraham and Solomon Kroc?
Who are they?
Abraham and Solomon Kroc begin their foundational wealth is grown from taking innocent skin lotions, creams, and lacing them with hydroquinone and mercury in support of Verwoerd's color coding of human beings. And so, in Ntsiki, come on, in every township, you see people with chubabas.
Yeah.
That's Abraham and Solomon Kroc, just disseminating their skin whitening creams in the dehumanization of Black people. And the African National Congress is indebted to Abraham, and so the violence that has been committed against my family and eventually the SK Institute comes from the African National Congress embedded with Zionists Solly and Abe Kroc. Now, going back to the point about 1994 and that government of national unity, my unchallenged evidence, and unchallenged is a legal term. Ntsiki, wait, let me get at that slowly. I have confronted everybody on this issue. What I'm discussing with you, I have confronted under oath. The email that I shared with you guys last week, if you look at it, those affidavits are under oath, right? So affidavits under oath bring up the possibility of lawsuits for defamation or whatever. Who? All right, let me ask you if you're active on. Have you seen anybody come up against me?
Yeah, there's silence. You say a lot of things, and you say lots of controversial stuff.
Have you seen them? Have you seen them come?
There's silence.
Have you seen them come? And there's violence in that silence. Huh? There's a violence there. There's a particular violence that people don't seem to appreciate, because it's especially when that violence has meant the destruction of the SK Institute and the destitution of my family. But somewhat.
What's your relationship with SK Mpahlele? Because he keeps coming up, and you got the foundation.
Oh,
please,
okay.
Can you?
Okay. You know that I manage Spongile Khumalo.
Okay.
You know that, right?
Now we're learning.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now you're giving me meat.
Very early in her career, I managed Spongile Khumalo.
Okay.
So the Khabingoma, who is Spongile's father, and SK Mpahlele were very close.
Okay.
And so it's in that process that Ma Rebecca Mpahlele has an early learning childhood center. And I get to Lebogomo to be with Mama Mpahlele in order to develop her proposal for funding. I don't end up in Lebogomo to see SK Mpahlele. I end up in Lebogomo to be with Ma to develop her proposal for funding. It's in the development of her proposal for funding, which she obviously shares with Ntate. Then Ntate says, one day over breakfast, he says, perhaps it's Mike that needs to bring out my papers that are sitting in the box, because now he's looked at my proposal, what I've developed for the Early Learning Childhood Center. And so it is that he then says, you know what, Mike, I've been sitting with papers that have been unpublished, and I've been wanting to get this off the ground for a long time. And I say, but I'm not a publisher. So he says, nah, but I see stuff here that I think you could be the right person to do that. And that's what brings about that book. The first one, Eskia.
This one, yeah.
No.
Oh, this one,
that
yeah.
one. That's Eskia.
Uh-huh.
Eskia. And so we enter into a contractual agreement with Ntatam Pashel. And then I end up managing his life, if you like.
Okay.
So it's through that process we end up with that book, and we end up with that book. By the way, this book, it was nominated for the Alan Paton Award, and I think we were second in line, but we didn't get it.
Oh, snap.
So that's how the Eskia Institute starts. And the letter, and you will see it in that email, the letter that I sent to Matamela Ramaphosa is that I want the name of Eskia Mpashele removed from any association with Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress. That is the essence of that email.
And why would you want that?
Because the Eskia Institute is destroyed when I have to step back a little so that I don't. How do I get this through? All right. When the Kroc brothers decide that they're going to steal my trademark, the first thing that they do, and it's arranged by Rule Khoza, is that they arrange a meeting with Nelson Mandela. Now, I'll give you the dates. On the 29th of January, 1999, I have the letter. I have it. If I knew the question was going to come up, I would have brought it with me. But I have the letter from Nelson Mandela in January of 1999, in which he says to me, congratulations on this Apartheid Museum. It would be good for nation building. 1 month later, in February, the Krocs have a meeting with him. And they say to him, and this is, oh, by the way, let me just say this. This is documented by Zakes Mda in 2011. It's documented by Zakes Mda. I did not know about this until Zakes Mda publishes his book. What's his book? Sometimes There's a Void is the last part. I'm forgetting the first part. But Sometimes There's a Void. So I happen upon this book, and here I see Zakes talking about the phone call that he got from Rule Khoza to say that there's a meeting at Nelson Mandela's house and he must join him. And Zakes Mda it's clear from the writing of Zakes Mda that he knows nothing about Freedom Park. Rule doesn't tell him about Freedom Park. And when he gets there, he says that clearly these guys are looking for Nelson Mandela's endorsement for them as the visionaries of the Apartheid Museum. And when they put the proposition to Mandela, Mandela says, you know, every time I see you, Solly, I see money. And then the Kroc brothers say that we will give you money. And that February of 1999 is when the attack starts full force. That is like in the document that I sent to the Legal Practice Council, I called it, they gang raped my child for 23 years. And when I say they gang raped my child for 23 years, I'm telling you that it was the entirety of the African National Congress with that mix that I tell you exists in every organ of state. In every organ of state, you have racists and you have these, what I refer to as non-white slaves. That's the mix of the current, that's the mix of every organ of state. And so it is from that point on that they decide now to get back to your question about the Eskia Institute. So I uncover fraud at the National Lotteries Board. Now, this I'm going to take slowly because a lot of people find it hard to understand. Lay people find it hard to understand. So give me a bit of time to explain this, okay? I am in litigation with Gold Reef City Casino. Slowly, Michael, I'm going to say it slowly, with a company that Gold Reef City Casino says they created, and this is what the company is called: the South African Apartheid Museum at Freedom Park. Okay. It's got 8 words. Okay. So I am in litigation with them in the years 2002 and 2003. I go to the High Court. I go to the appeal in the High Court, and neither of them grant me permission, and I end up at the Supreme Court of Appeal, where my petition is denied, right? So if I can take you to, that's 2003. We finish in the Supreme Court of Appeal about March of 2004. Gold Reef City Casino thinks that, oh, now it's safe to get into the water. Guess what they do? They make an application to the National Lotteries Commission for funding, public money. The National Lotteries Commission controls your money, controls public money. Now, in that application signed by Christopher Till, he tells the National Lotteries Board at that time that John Carney is the chairman of a company. Now listen to the name of the company: SA Apartheid Museum, 3 words. Right? I uncover that in the National Lotteries Commission. I said, hold on a second. I have been in litigation with the South African Apartheid Museum at Freedom Park. Those are 2 different names of companies, okay? Now, my full and official names are Arnold Michael Stainbank. Those are my and you have got official names in your ID document. Those are your official names, right? Now, companies operate the same way. You either, this is the company or this is not the company. No matter how much your sister and you look alike, your sister doesn't have your ID number, period. Mm-hmm. And so here you find, this is the company, it's got the same identity number as this company. How's that possible? How is that possible? So I uncovered that fraud in the National Lotteries Commission. But then at that time, the National Lotteries Commission is the principal funder for the SK Institute. So when I uncovered that fraud, the National Lotteries Commission owes the SK Institute, contractually owes us 34 million rand, right? And then they get together, because this crime is committed by Gold Reef City Casino. They get together and they say, damn, he's got us. What are we going to do? They decide that they will steal the 34 million rand. And so they destroyed the SK Institute. And when I told you I came early because the SK Institute had an office here, just down the road. That's why I came early, and I said to you, I want to go and see if this place has changed, eh? This place has changed.
Yeah, the youth have arrived.
It took me a while, and I said, oh, okay. And I haven't been here in years. And I went and I found where our offices were. At that time, that was the only building, but now I see Maboneng is a big thing. So what then happened? They decided that they would steal the 34 million. And you must have read about Alfred Nevutanda in the press lately. So that 34 million is gone. And that's how. But when, you see, I was the target. But then the SK Institute employed a great many people. To hell with that. They took everybody down. When we left this building, when we left Maboneng, we literally were running out asking people, can you keep this for us? Can you keep this? Can you keep this? Can you please keep this? If you come to my home, there's no car in the garage. It's the SK Institute in the garage.
Your fight with the Apartheid Museum is the longest running litigation process in the world.
It's the longest running trademark case in the world. And when you say that, you can say by another day today and another day tomorrow. Now, here's a circumstance. Remember John Kani told us he's chairman in the 3-word company. Remember that in that application, right? He's chairman in the 3-word company. Now, it's John Kani as the chairman in the 8-word company that gets me the prison sentence in 2014. In a 564-page affidavit, John Kani speaks on behalf of Solly and Abe Kroc. He tells Solly Kroc is there, but John Kani's speaking on behalf of Solly and Abe Kroc. Why aren't they speaking for themselves?
Saying like he's like a puppet vibe. Is that what you're saying? Yes.
John is rule. They're one and the same. John is rule, one and the same. John Kani gets me the prison sentence in case number 37609 of 2014. Now, you need to ask yourself, so what they had done in there is that they said that I must apologize to them for all of the things that I've been saying about them, right? Now, in order to, the apology was crafted. And if I had signed that apology, I couldn't be having this discussion with you. So what the apology does is that it exonerates everybody, including the judiciary.
I understand that.
You get that?
Okay. I get that.
So Raylene Keatley is the advocate acting as a judge. So she says, you realize from what you've told me that you haven't denied that you've said all of these things. And I said, no, I haven't denied. She then says, you realize that they're asking for a prison sentence. I said, yes, I realize that. You realize that if you don't sign this, that you're going to have to go to prison. I said, I do realize that, of course. So she says, are you going to sign it? I said, not today, not tomorrow, and not ever will I sign that. Now, you need to be asking the question. So her order says that within 15 days, the registrar of the court must issue a warrant for my arrest. Where is it? Why am I sitting here with you and I haven't been into prison? I mean, this is common sense, and I don't know how to get that through to people. Common sense. Why am I not in prison? They made their gamble. He should be frightened of prison. And I played my gamble. And I'm so glad Comrade Zandi is sitting here in this with us today, because when we were in the courtroom, there were a whole lot of people who didn't understand the issues.
Yes.
And, Mike, just sign the thing, man. Black House Collective said, you're not doing that.
Integrity.
You're not doing that. And I said, I know I'm not doing that. And Raylene Keatley, she says, I'm going to have to write this judgment. And I said, you're going to do what you're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And there she wrote it into a judgment. The question is, why have I not been to prison? Well, it's called contempt of court. Contempt of court. That's what the charge is, because there was an earlier Chabalala judgment that said that I must stop defaming these people.
Yes.
And I just carried on.
Yes.
I just carried on. And when she asked me, you're making the admission? Yeah, I'm making that admission. I did that. Yes, I did. And so here am I today.
How has all these, because I'm sure it's been so draining for you, this whole battle, emotionally, mentally, financially. Whoa.
Financially, we're ruined.
Yo.
We're ruined. There's no bread and milk at home.
Yeah, so it's affected your family, it's affected your livelihood. It reminds me of the case with Vodacom, when a human being is up against a big corporate, and I don't know how, as Black people, we're going to learn how to stand behind each other when someone is fighting something for justice that's going to affect all of us, you know? Because if your idea can be stolen by major corporation, my idea can be stolen.
Absolutely.
Anybody's ideas can be stolen.
Absolutely.
We're not protected as a whole. So it's not your battle alone.
But even that, I would put another spin on that and say that yes, of course, the corporation steals it, but you have to get back to the criminality in the judiciary, in the state. You have to get back to the criminality of the state and the judiciary. And unlike Mokate, I don't see Mokate touch the political. My case is entirely political. Entirely political. Yeah. And so
the answer is that it's been a draining and long, difficult,
very traumatic,
very
violent, extremely violent.
Yeah.
It's extremely violent. And part of the violence, if you go back to that, if you read that email again, you would see there that I've listed, I think it's about 16 organs of state that are complicit in this thing. And I don't think that I don't find it, I know the thing that is said to me often is that it's because Mandela and Bezos are involved that nobody wants to touch this thing. Yes, I've heard that a lot of times, and while there might be some truth in it, I think that the attack on my trademark was precisely to cut off the mission and vision that I had. It was about that. It was about that. It was about keeping the mind enslaved. I don't know if you're getting that.
I'm getting that because basically the system wants us to erase our history.
Absolutely.
Right?
Now you got it.
I get it. And you were coming with it on, this is the reality.
Absolutely.
Then the system was like, oh no, we're going to need to switch this, and here's the reality, guys. And you're like, no, the reality is here.
Yeah.
So they had to cut off the reality.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So
I get it.
So that's my reading of it is that that arrangement of 1994 that was betrayal of the worst kind. That was out and out betrayal. And this notion that the African National Congress has developed about themselves as freedom fighters. We were fighting since 1652, man.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? You follow what I'm saying? We were fighting about 16.
It's not an ANC struggle.
How dare they come up and come to the agreement that they did? It's a betrayal of the worst kind.
But Mike, I'm sorry if I cut you off there.
No.
I think I heard the Apartheid Museum is closed now.
No,
what's happening?
No, they apparently they. Oh gosh, hey, Ntsiki, you're taking me down the road now.
I have to take you.
You're taking me down the road. There was a publication in Australia.
Yes.
Oh gosh, just now, an Australian network published this story about the Apartheid Museum, and I attacked them. And they said that COVID is over and stuff like that, and now they reopen, they rehash the whole criminal story. And I went back at them, and I did this to them. And so, from what I understand, yes, it is reopened following the end of COVID or something like that.
So the battle continues, basically.
Well, yes, until they put me in prison. that's the one part. But let me give you another part. There's a time when I get to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and Gold Reef City Casino says, you cannot hear his case because he owes us 5.7 million rand. Right? 5.7 million rand. The invoice for the 5.7 million rand hasn't been presented. How do you work that out? A non-profit organization. How do you work that out? 5.7 million. How do you work that out? It hasn't even been presented. The Gold Reef City Casino. We've established that the company itself doesn't exist, right? So who said the company exists? Gold Reef City Casino said this company exists. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in law, and let me rephrase that. It cannot exist in law, and it most certainly does not exist on paper. It most certainly does not exist. Do you want me to go to that for a moment? Okay. Now, I go to Madonsela, and I put forward this thing about it cannot exist in law and it does not exist on paper. Tuli Madonsela tells them to release the inception file. So the inception file is, if I could take it it's your birth certificate, mom, dad, hospital, blah, blah, blah. That's as a person, right? So the inception file of the company is its history, right?
Yeah.
It's made up of 81 pages. When I tell you that it's cut, paste, fraud, photocopy, cut, paste, fraud, photocopy, cut, paste, fraud, change the 7 to the 8. Like clear, not like you have to struggle, to see. Now, how does that happen, Ntsiki? Go back to what I said to you about 2004, the application to the Lotteries Board in the 3-word company. Now, the 3-word company, Ntsiki, was incorporated at the CIPC, right?
Okay.
But the decision to lie, to introduce 8 words into the company. Remember what I told you, that the pitch to go to the Gauteng Gambling Board was Freedom Park.
Yes.
So they figured they have to explain that. So then they go, the South African Apartheid Museum at Freedom Park.
Yes.
But this is the company that is defrauding visiting tourists and school children. This is the one, the 3-word, that they do in a scam with the CIPC, you see? So when Tuli Madonsela says, give Mike the inception file, what are they going to do? Because this thing doesn't exist. So they take these papers and then they cut, paste, photocopy, cut, paste, photocopy, cut, paste, photocopy, and they give me the 8, but palpable, but almost defiant.
Yes.
You get it, Ntsiki?
So, Mike, you keep mentioning Gold Reef City. What's the relationship? What is it?
Oh, okay. All casinos, actually, when they were, the condition of the license, a casino is like printing money. So the Gauteng Gambling Board, the Gambling Act says that if we're going to give you this license, there is something that you must contribute to the community. So like I was speaking earlier on, when Gold Reef City Casino goes there, they say that they're going to build Freedom Park. Right?
Yes.
Right. So what, and I suppose I'm repeating myself, but what the gambling board says, okay, fine, we're going to give you a temporary license. Right? Now, in 3 years, we want to see Freedom Park. Okay, then I told you what Freedom Park is. It's a tribal village, right? So now, and and if you excuse me for making this point, if they did not build Freedom Park, it means they could never have been given the permanent license, because the license could never have been converted from temporary to permanent. It couldn't have been. And that's the fraud of the Gauteng Gambling Board.
So, you keep, the thing is that also I want you to have a disclaimer, because you keep dropping these big names on the podcast. And I need you to own your words. But tell me more about John Kani.
Absolutely. I own everything that I say. Absolutely, I own them. No, absolutely. And, you remind me, sorry, man, if you just excuse it. I respect this guy a lot, but I had an interview with Ashraf Garda. Great journalist, nice guy. And as I'm talking, he says, you realize that they have a right of reply. I said, Ashraf, relax, nobody's coming. He says, and then we go on, we talk, and I drop another name. Then he's kind of, you realize that they have a right of reply. And I say to him, bro, nobody's coming. His producer's kind of like, hey, Ashraf, you realize they are going to have, I said, relax, nobody's coming. Nobody came. Nobody's going to come for you, Ntsiki. But just for the formality, I own everything that I'm telling you. I take ownership of that.
Well, how does Ndata John Kani fit you? Because you dropped his name, and that's a big name to drop.
John Kani, beyond being a house Negro, should be in jail today, along with Rule Khoza and everybody else. He should be in jail.
Why do you say that?
Yeah, but singling out John Kani leaves out Bongani Biela, it leaves out Richard Moloko, it leaves out... And it's the strangest thing you should say, because yesterday I was looking for something and I came across that list of people that should be in jail now is about 100. I'm not talking about maladministration here. I'm talking about fraud. And there's no statute.
They colluded.
Absolutely.
They planned.
Absolutely.
They knew what they were doing.
Absolutely.
With their names and reputations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I was having a discussion with Comrade Zandi the other day. We have this thing where people have tags. So as soon as you say the Honorable so-and-so, your mind doesn't do that kind of... When honorable is attached to the name, you don't put criminal next to honorable. You understand what I'm saying?
It sanitizes.
It gives you this, it can't be. You understand what I'm saying? Justice so-and-so, it can't be. I tell the story about how Justice Southwood hijacked the courtroom. He hijacked the courtroom. He was never allocated the case. Justice Southwood was not allocated the case on Friday.
I've seen that happen. Where the papers say you've got this lawyer and then it's another white lawyer, another white judge. Right? I know the story.
You know the story?
Very well. I'm familiar with it.
Do you want me to drop some other...
Drop the names.
Okay. Advocate Lindiwe Nkosi Thomas, acting as a judge. She's another one that I said, so what's a friend of yours?
Okay. I'm just listening. I'm like, there's many people here.
Oh, okay. Like I said to Raylene Keatley, I said to Advocate Lindiwe Nkosi Thomas, I said to her, look, I'm going to show you some decency by asking you to allow me to leave your court. And she's kind of like, and she doesn't know what to do. And the reason I'm saying that is I'm saying there is no person here. There's no person. The South African Apartheid Museum at Freedom Park doesn't exist, cannot exist in law, and does not exist on paper. It cannot exist. Understand, can I get into that part that says cannot exist in law? Can I do that, please, quickly? Let me do that for you. Let me do that. There is a wonderful case. It's called Hollywood Curl versus Twins. Hollywood Curl is the story of a Vida Kanika Martins, an African-American woman who is successful with her product, Hollywood Curl, in the United States. She comes out of the United States to expand her business in South Africa. She goes to the CIPC and she registers a company called Hollywood Curl, right? Pty Limited. What then happens is that the Kroc brothers in South Africa own the trademark Hollywood. They own the trademark Hollywood. They then go to the court and they say that she is infringing on their trademark, Hollywood. Hollywood is one of the products that they use for the dehumanization of Black people with their skin whitening creams laced with hydroquinone and mercury, okay? So they go to now this part you have to listen to carefully. They go to the Supreme Court of Appeal. Their attorney is a guy by the name, is Owen Salmon. Their advocate is Brian Southwood, right? So Owen Salmon and Brian Southwood go into the Supreme Court of Appeal in 1988, right? And they win that case on the basis that you cannot register a company using somebody else's trademark. You cannot register a company using somebody else's trademark. That goes to the thing that I said to you earlier on that says cannot exist in law. Okay? That's my explanation. Cannot exist in law. Okay. So they win that case. And there was a voice clip that I did last week called The Triad, the criminal triad between Crocs, Southwood, and Salmon. Now listen, this is 1988. They help the Supreme Court of Appeal to set the precedent that says you cannot do this, right? Okay. Fast forward to my case on the 20th of June, 2003. But let me give you a small thing. We are scheduled to appear in court on the 17th of June, 2003, right? That judge, by way of collusion with these others, that judge postpones the case. But listen to what he says. He says, I will postpone this case for Southwood on Friday. Ntsiki, please tell me when you miss it, okay? Because I understand it must be on. Now, Fridays in the Pretoria High Court are strictly reserved for divorces and urgent matters. Strictly reserved for divorces and urgent matters. My case is not divorce and it's not urgent. So the courtroom is empty. The courthouse is empty because there's really no court happening, right? So we walk into the courthouse and we're going to see the roll. We're going to see for our names. Our names are not there. Now listen, we get into the courtroom. Guess who is the judge? All right, I'll give away the game. The judge is Brian Southwood. Guess who's Gold Reef Casino's advocate? Guess who? The advocate is Owen Salmon. The precedent that they set in the Supreme Court of Appeal, he went against the precedent that he set in the Supreme Court. He himself set in the Supreme Court of Appeal.
That's the SA Judiciary, I know.
That's the South African Judiciary.
That's the one.
Post-1994.
That's the one I know, full of lies.
A constitutional democracy subject to the rule of law.
Full of lies. Lies. And white people get away with it because they're white.
You see, that's another attachment. That's another thing that they do. That's another thing that they do.
I'm familiar, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, no, that's another thing that they do. Where's this Mike Stainbank? The Crocs did that.
And it's so interesting how the Crocs, how come we're hearing about the Crocs from you?
Oh, yeah.
We should know who the Crocs are.
Well, the
damage they've done.
The African National Congress is not going to teach our children that. That's never going to happen. Not the African National Congress. That's not going to happen.
So now, because this has been quite a rough journey you've been on.
Yeah.
How can people help you, or who has helped you? What support structure do you have?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm going to answer that in a roundabout way. There was a day when we were at Black House Collective, and this young man was there, and he's listening to me. And one of the comrades from Black House, Brother Rutuli, they say to him, "Hey, this thing is hard to understand." And Brother Rutuli said to them, "No, it's just hard to believe. It's just hard to believe. It's not difficult to understand at all. It's just hard to believe." So I come to Black House Collective as being outside of Black House Collective support. I have pretty substantial support on Twitter, but Twitter is Twitter.
Yes,
it doesn't go further than that. So Black House Collective is attracted to the case when they hear about it, because that is their mission. That's their mission statement. It's about correcting
injustices to
black people and stuff. And so they come to the case, and they then become the support structure for my family, and they've been there for 10 years. And they've been they've disrupted courts.
What?
Yeah, they disrupted courts. They went to the Market Theatre to get even with John Carney. And
what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they've certainly been.
Who are they? Who are they? Please, can you give us more information? Who are? It's like
Black House Collective.
It's an organization that does what?
primarily, like you said earlier on, they concern themselves with issues of racism primarily, and these attacks on Black people.
So it's a bunch of lawyers.
No. There's and that's the good part about Black House Collective. It's composed of 3 people who are of like mind, and then there are these like Comrade Zandi met with the guy just now that you'd interviewed earlier.
Oh yes.
There's a synergy. There's a synergy that is going with a lot of other like-minded groups.
Our tribe.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So there's that kind of synergy that they have going, and they were involved in raising consciousness about Mama Subukwe.
Okay.
Oh yeah. No. Very, 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 very active. Yes. I must give you the poem that Eskiam Pashela wrote to her, dedication to her. I don't know which one of the books, but it's somewhere there. Somewhere there. Yeah, I must give you that.
Okay.
Sorry.
And what about, can other people help you or support you, or how can we make you not feel alone?
Believe me.
We believe you.
Believe me is probably the most important thing. Black House Collective does make efforts to try to secure bread and milk and those kind of things that sustain life, Yeah, I suppose.
So you just keep fighting until?
Well, I don't know until when, actually. I don't know until when. Black House Collective has... And I don't know whether I'm at liberty to say this right now, but there is an initiative that is currently underway, like today. But maybe I'm not at liberty.
It's fine. In the description box, if people can help, I'm sure we'll put information there for them to be able to.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. And then also wanted to know, how do you see, what's the resolution? What's the best case scenario? What do they owe you?
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to what I had said earlier on. If they got that license on the basis of my property, That license belongs to me. It's natural justice. Worse than that is that this is not a case of maladministration. This is out and out fraud. And I'm talking about, I often talk about fraud as being moral and financial. This is moral and financial fraud of the worst possible kind. And the explanation is this: it's transnational. They advertise to bring in people. And I keep on trying to get some support from overseas, because in South Africa, the chances of a resolution for those people are very little.
Yeah.
However, a lawsuit that is brought outside of South Africa has an imminent chance of success. However, what the state is left with is they have to decide whether they're going to hold Gold Reef City Casino accountable, or whether they're going to absorb their own crimes against humanity. Because this is what that constitutes, isn't it?
Well, Mike, like everybody says, brave work you're doing. And we support you. And at least now we got the story and we're kind of understanding it. And have trust in us, please. We do understand the nuances of the system.
Okay.
We do, really do.
Okay.
And I hope that this episode has the impact that it can push a little bit, some positivity in your corner. Thank you for taking the time and energy to be with us. I know it wasn't an easy interview. So we're
thank you.
Bulela Tina. Outstanding citizens, we're always so privileged and so blessed to get the kind of guests that we do. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok. And let's grow this community, guys. We are almost on 10,000 subscribers. Yay! Thank you so much for joining. See you next week.
Ntsiki, there's a part that I didn't tell you. I spoke about the provincial government, but I didn't speak about the Mangaung municipality. I sat in the Mangaung municipality and I did a presentation with the full council meeting. In the year 2000, the Mangaung municipality, the Bloemfontein Local Transitional Council, that's what it was called at the time, they took a council resolution to build the Apartheid Museum in Bloemfontein. This is after Ace Magashula in 1994 that I told you about. They took a resolution to build the Apartheid Museum. That was in the year 2000. These people attacked me in the year 2001. Now, when you look at what the Bloemfontein Transitional Local Council committed themselves to is 1 billion rand. Now, I don't have that 1 billion rand dating back to the year 2000. Would you like to calculate the interest on that? I lost that as a result of this attack. That resolution comes before these people attack. And you do not find that in any judgment. In fact, one of the criminals in the judiciary said nothing has been achieved. I had a commitment of 1 billion rand from records of council are kept. You can go and find that. February 2000, Bloemfontein Bloemfontein Local Transitional Council took that resolution. We will build it. And then they sent a letter to, who was the premier at that time? Winky Direko. And they said, province must become involved. How's that?
I want to have uncomfortable conversations. I want the room to be divided. I want people to be screaming and mad at each other. Then I want them to understand each other. I want to see things from a different point of view. This is Unpopular Opinion.